was just smaller. Same thing, just a little smaller than what you're looking at here. They then took me to the next room where the abortion was to take place. Now this room was not like any other room. Every other room was kind of like what you see in here, this kind of lighting, this kind of environment. When I walked into the room where the abortion took place, it was small, it was cluttered, it was freezing cold. There was a metal table in the middle of the room, and they had me get up on it, and a couple of staff people were moving around in the back, and I was terrified. I remember I was standing there shaking, and they put a mask over my face to administer medication to help relax me. And I can tell you, short of knocking me out, nothing was going to relax me. And then the door flew open, and in blew in the abortionist. And I gasped, because I realized I knew him. He was a client in the law firm where I was working at the time. I'd just seen him in my office the week before. But he didn't look at me. He didn't examine me. He didn't review a medical chart. He sat down and he began the procedure. The first words out of his mouth to me were, "You're going to feel a little discomfort." I can tell you I felt a lot more than a little discomfort. Excruciating pain shot through my body. And then he flipped the switch on the machine. As I told you, most abortions take place with what's called a vacuum aspirator method if it's under 12 weeks gestation. And what that is basically what you think it is a vacuum machine. He inserted it and he began the procedure. And the tears began streaming down my face. And I felt like I was being violently shaken off of the table, and they were yelling at me, "You need to be still." I had no control over what was happening to me. The pain, indescribable. And as I lay there, I remember crying out to God to forgive me, because I knew I was making the biggest mistake of my life. But it was too late. There was nothing I could do. And honestly, I thought I was going to die. And I guess if God was just, I would have died. I should have died, because I was taking the life of my baby. What seemed like an eternity was finally over. He flipped off the machine. I heard the clanking of the metal instruments and the snap of his gloves as he took them off. He slapped me on the side of the leg and said, "Good luck to you," and he walked out. He had no idea who he performed an abortion on. I remember he's a client in my law firm. He knows me personally. He had no idea. He was a well-known OBGYN in San Antonio. He delivered babies all week long, and on Saturdays he was taking their lives. Doesn't make sense, does it? As they went to help me up off the table, I was shaking and I was weak. And I apologize for this, but you need to know, blood poured out all over the floor. And they yelled at me because I was making a mess on the floor, and they were going to have to clean it up. And so there was someone on either side of me, and they helped me to the bathroom to clean up and put my clothes on. And then they took me to another room for what they call recovery. And this room is like this room again. Okay, so it's not this cold, dark room. Windows had been boarded up in the other room. This was a normal room. And there were recliners with snack trays lined up. And girls on either side curled up in fetal positions, crying in pain. And I remember my hands were in fists, and I stood as upright as I possibly could. And I said, "I'm fine, can I leave?" And they said, "No, sit down, you have to wait. Eat your cookies, drink your juice, and we'll be back." So I sat in the recliner. I couldn't eat, I couldn't swallow. And I listened to these girls sobbing. And I wouldn't cry anymore, because I wanted out. And I was holding my hands tight in fists. And to this day, when I'm under extreme stress, or I'm in crisis, in my sleep, my hands will go into fists, and I dig my nails into my hands until I bleed. So much for no big deal. They gave me a prescription for antibiotics and told me to call for a 2-week follow-up appointment. And I remember thinking right then and there, I'm never setting foot up in this place again. And I didn't even fill the prescription for antibiotics because the shame and the guilt of what I had just done was so extreme. When I stepped out of that place that day, I was forever changed. I began wearing a mask to hide that shame and guilt, and I was good at it. My family had no idea what I'd done or what was wrong with me, or that there was anything wrong with me. But the following week, I was in the nightclubs. There's not a nightclub in San Antonio I haven't been to, and I was drinking. I was drinking heavier than I've ever drank in my life. Where I knocked back a couple of beers in the past, now I'm drinking hard alcohol, whatever was given to me. I get drunk enough to when the drugs were introduced to me. It's like, "Hey, you want to try this?" I started with cocaine, didn't like cocaine, thought it was a waste of time. Proceeded to ecstasy, Didn't like that hurts your jaws. It's not a good thing. Then I was given what's called crank. I was like, hey, this is pretty good. You know, party, stay up all night, drink, numb the pain that I'm in, and then go to work the next day. And I did this for quite a while, and I finally progressed to crystal meth. And I did this for a long period of time. I then was suffering from depression and panic attacks for which I had to take medication. I'd never had that before. I was more sexually promiscuous. While I was in a relationship before, now I'm in the bars and I'm wasted. I don't even know half the time who I'm with. I had no self-worth, no self-esteem. I was putting myself in horrible positions because I wanted to die. But remember I told you I was raised in a really wonderful home? I gave my life to the Lord when I was 8 years old. And God never forgot about me, even though I walked away from Him. And He began to pull me back into Him. And when He did that, I found hope. And I found healing. And I went through what's called abortion recovery. And that's why I can do what I'm doing here now, is I don't want any more women hurt the way I was hurt, or to live the life that I lived. Okay? And every woman in Operation Outcry, that's how she feels. That's why we do what we do. Are we proud of it? No. I wish I never could admit to something like this, that I'd never done anything like this, but I did. And so God has now taken that part of my life and turned it around. He did. He's using it as a tool to reach others with the truth. As we talked earlier, speak the truth in love. Whatever I share, it's always in love, guys. Okay? I went in there deceived. I went in there scared. Ultimately, if I want to get down to the nitty-gritty, it was to hide my sin. I'd had sex outside of marriage, and I was trying to hide it. I was trying to fix the problem. I'm telling you, it didn't fix the problem. You can go to the next slide. What can you do? As I told you, these girls are walking in there scared, in a fix, and they need it fixed, okay? They're going to walk out like I told you I walked out. All right? So you're going to catch them on either side of this. A vast majority of these girls are never going to want to talk to you. They're going to race into that abortion facility as fast as they can. They don't want to make eye contact with you, and they don't want to talk to you. But for the one person that you can reach every Saturday or Wednesday or whatever day that you're going out, can make the difference in a little baby's life or a woman's life. Danny's going to give you these resources. These are the people that he's hooked up with, but I want you to have them as well, because you're doing this through the school right now. You may feel called to do this in your local communities. These are national, that's a national number right there. This is Blue Ridge, which is for Roanoke. I would encourage you, if you continue doing this, get connected to your pregnancy care centers in your local area. Volunteer at them. It's valuable, valuable experience there if you really feel called to do this. When you're standing out there, you're going to experience people who are going to be very ugly and angry, as Dr. Honeycutt shared. And he's giving you the scriptural basis on how to handle it. I'm going to kind of give you the nitty-gritty of, you're going to get this. They're going to curse you out. They're going to call you names. There are going to be people that want to get up in your face. It's important that you don't come up against them, that you don't touch them, that you take on that mind of Christ, okay? And just do everything you do in love. What is that old adage, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do as he's standing there? He would just be there in love. These girls are looking for options, okay? They think they have no other option, and this is going to fix it. That's why the pregnancy centers are important. Adoption is an option. There are resources to help these girls carry their babies to term and keep their babies if they choose to do so, okay? So all of those things are critically important. Go to the next slide. For those young ladies, I want all you to have this. You're in your dorms, you're in your classes, you're running up against, how many of you know someone who has had an abortion? How many of you know someone who's had an abortion on this campus? Okay? That's critical for you to have, whether you know them right now or not. It's confidential. It's answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by others who've experienced the pain of abortion. They're there to listen, to pray with them, and help them find an abortion recovery program in their area. Abortion recovery is a biblically based program to